Hi everyone, and welcome to week 8 of the vlog series here at Embodied Beings. My name is Alexa, and this week I am talking to you guys about burnout, stress, and the saving grace of yoga therapy and all of that. But we're specifically going to talk about this thing called burnout, what it is, what my background is in experiencing it and working with clients who have suffered from it, and also some of the inner workings of how yoga therapy helps us to not only deal with burnout, but actually prepare our minds and our bodies and sharpen our awareness so that we don't get to that point of burnout. So the term burnout, it was coined in the 1970s by an American psychologist named Herbert Freudenberger. And he used it to describe some of the consequences of high stress, specifically in helping careers. So he was thinking of like doctors and nurses, but it's now used more widely to describe many different types of careers. So not only those in medicine and in psychotherapy and things like that, but just high stress careers in general, which if you're tuning in from North America or Europe or other parts of the Western world, this is something that's pretty common. Statistically, it's said now that 10% of the workforce in the United States and Europe has suffered from or is suffering from burnout, and it could very well be higher than that. 10% is more just what's reported. So burnout, it's characterized by things like fatigue, like foggy mind, lack of focus, irritability, insomnia, ADD type symptoms that suddenly come up. And there's no strict diagnosis. I want to emphasize this. And it can look similar to symptoms for disorders where there is a strict diagnosis, like generalized anxiety disorder, depression, things like this. But burnout, it's usually more having to do with putting out more than we can in terms of like what we're doing with work. So it's generally more work related, whereas some of these other disorders like anxiety, like depression, they are more deeply rooted in sometimes like subtle thinking patterns or past traumas or really difficult emotional things coming up. So that's one of the differences. And like I mentioned, the main symptoms of burnout, it's exhaustion, alienation from work and activities, and also reduced performance. So you could see how some of these definitely overlap with symptoms of other disorders. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about like what burnout feels like and looks like if you haven't experienced it yet. And more importantly, because this video is not meant to diagnose in any way burnout or any other disorders, we'll be focusing more on the yoga therapy, the healing through using yoga when it comes to burnout or also preventing burnout. So here's a little bit about my story with burnout. I've always had a tendency towards extremes, meaning like I go full on 1000% with something without looking back. And this definitely manifested in high school, for example, when I was just like going full power into competitive athleticism, mostly ski racing, and also being a super competitive student in a very competitive school district. So I would get to the point where I was like begging my dad to wake me up at 4 a.m. so I could finish papers when I hadn't gone to bed until maybe 1 a.m., many days and weeks and months in a row. And surprisingly, I don't think I ever reached a point of burnout in high school, and it wasn't until about 10 years later, so quite recently, that I noticed, wow, I can't function like I used to in high school. I wonder what that's about. And I noticed, especially this past year when I was working in Thailand, when I was teaching a lot of yoga therapy, working one-on-one with clients also going through my own processes, doing a writing job online for a company back in the States and just trying to keep it all together, that I was kind of losing it. And by that I mean I was experiencing these symptoms of what would eventually reach burnout. So my mind was really all over the place. It was becoming quite difficult to focus. I couldn't drop out of that headspace. I wasn't able to sleep very well at night. When I would finally get to sleep, I would wake up feeling lethargic and exhausted throughout the day. I felt really annoyed by people. Like, if someone would ask me a favor or ask me a question, something really, really simple, the immediate response was like irritability. And this wasn't normal. Like, this wasn't my normal way of functioning, so I could tell something was off, but I couldn't quite get out of it. And this is when I was doing a consistent yoga practice every day. So, especially in what I do, and possibly what you do too for work, if it has to do with helping people or anything that requires showing up like 100% to hold space for someone, I wasn't able to do that and also like work at the pace that I was going, and that's why these symptoms started to come up. And they aren't a bad thing. Like, they're doing us a favor. So they're these warning signals, like not quite red flags, but maybe yellow flags, just to warn us that something's off. We're probably going at an unsustainable pace. Yeah, they started to come up, and I finally reached a point where I recognized I can't just like slow down. I've gotten to the point where I actually have to stop everything, because I feel like I can't function anymore. And that was the point of what for me was more of a serious burnout. So I stopped all my work for a week, took a little staycation, and then resumed work. I was definitely doing better. I was in a space to be able to help clients. And after a few weeks, I realized, actually, no, I need to completely stop everything again. And that's when I took a more extended break to take care of myself. So this is how I learned for myself a little bit what burnout feels like. And what I've been doing since then is I've been watching myself to make sure to take care of myself in a way that I can recognize these little yellow flags coming up and shift my behavior and my lifestyle in such a way that I don't have to get to that point of complete burnout where I just have to drop everything, because that's not really feasible in the world that we live in, like, and in the career that I'm in, to be able to show up for people and help them. I would never want to leave someone hanging because I'm not able to recognize the signs that I need to take care of myself. So how yoga works and how yoga helps with this, you might be questioning why a yogi and a yoga therapist like reaches burnout. But it's possible for all of us. It doesn't mean that the yoga wasn't working. It just means that I was having a human experience, a life experience, and learning how to set boundaries within myself. And this is one of the main ways that I would say yoga helps in terms of preventing burnout. Is it helps us to cultivate an awareness of what's going on in our bodies and when these little micro shifts in our system changes. So when I'm really tuned in to what's going on in my body and my emotions, in my mind, in my mental sphere, I notice when I don't have a good night's sleep. I notice when I start to feel a little bit annoyed by my surroundings or start to detach and not want to hang out with people. And I'm able to differentiate between, like, okay, this is just me needing a day or two break, and this is me pushing myself too much in my work and needing to set some more boundaries for myself, meaning scale back on the work a bit and do some serious self-care. But this is a skill. Like, this is a skill that's sharpened through a yoga practice when each day we're taking the time to tune into our bodies, to tune into how we're feeling. And this is how, a consistent yoga practice can help the conscious mind be able to recognize, okay, like something's not right here. And I've talked about the second reason before, the second way that yoga helps with preventing and pacifying burnout is through ANS training. So training of the autonomic nervous system to help with the stress response. So what a consistent yoga practice does, it helps us to be able to cope with like more challenging issues that come up. And this is something I've seen so much in my life in the past year. Like when I'm in a challenging situation, one that is really stressful, that in the past I could see myself just needing to run away from or being afraid to face or confront at all, I'm able to step into it like with full awareness and confidence in myself and just handle the stress in a really healthy way. So through a yoga practice, I'm actually creating a more efficient way for my system to respond to stressful situations in life. And in this way, I actually become more efficient in my work and more successful with how I can help people, how I can deal with difficult situations. So in that way, I'm able to do more without feeling like burnt out so quickly, if that makes sense. And the third way, and this is the biggest one, the most important, and it's more subtle, is this breaking of habituated patterns of feeling extreme stress as normal. This is something that my teachers in my therapeutic yoga teacher training course really drilled into us, is this knowledge that like whenever something in life becomes a pattern, it doesn't matter if it's really healthy or really unhealthy. Whenever it becomes a pattern and it becomes habitual, it becomes a habit, the mind recognizes it as normal. And this is something I've seen hugely as I've come back to the States after almost a year of being out of the United States. Like I see how the habituated pattern of very high extreme stress and the things that can go along with it and lead to burnout, like insomnia, like foggy mind, like needing 3 cups of coffee in the morning and needing 3 drinks every night to get to bed. It's become like the normal way of life for some individuals that I've seen. And when we see this and we start to implement a yoga practice and a meditation practice to break the pattern, we're able to avoid that super far extreme of like rock bottom burnout where we have to drop our entire lives and we don't have a choice anymore to change our lifestyle or not change it. Like something happens so that we're just not able to show up in the way that we need to, and then there's not much choice around it. And what I would like to do is to help us be able to recognize these signs of burnout, recognize if we're in habituated patterns of extreme stress that could lead to burnout, and start to shift the patterns before it's too late and we reach that like full-on burnout stage. So I hope this video helped a little bit in terms of offering insight into what burnout is, what it could be, some of the signs and symptoms. Again, this video is not meant to diagnose burnout or any other serious disorder, but a way to just show how yoga therapy can help in preventing burnout, in creating healthy, vibrant bodies to be able to manage stress in a more healthy way, and ultimately to just live like more joyous lives in healthier patterns rather than these unhealthy patterns of extreme stress. Thanks so much, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!